great to have you here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm here in beautiful Ladera Canyon in Ojai Valley. I'm here with Ron Asquith. He is a farmer and owner of Ojai Olive Oil, and it is such a beautiful day here. How long have you been growing olives?
We started planting olive trees 14 years ago, and during that period of time we've planted about 2,600 olive trees. But
Wow.
what we started with and what motivated us are these old olive trees here behind you that were planted roughly 120 years ago.
120 years ago. So when you first came to this property in Ladera Canyon, those olive trees were obviously there. So was the previous owner an olive grower?
No, no. The man who planted them originally was a builder, and he and his family homesteaded this land. And everyone on the family, that particular family, has been gone for several decades. And I bought it from people who had moved out of the area, and nothing had been done with these old trees for several decades, but they were still healthy, they were still producing olives, and that's what motivated us to have an interest in olive oil.
Okay, wonderful. So the interest actually came from the property and the trees, or what inspired you?
Initially, yes, from those old trees, and then as we studied and did research about olives and olive oil, you know, there's a fantastic history of olives and olive oil, particularly in the Eastern Mediterranean, that for more than 5,000 years people have been using olive oil for a variety of purposes, as a food, as a medicine, to light their lamps for religious reasons, and it fascinated us and made us want to become involved.
What a great story. So the trees, the history. So a little bit more about the history. So are the Spanish the perfecters of olive oil, or is it the Italians, or is it you?
Well, it's the Spanish, the Italians, the Greeks, the Turks, people who live around the Mediterranean Sea.
Okay, so olive oil is a staple in their diet.
Yes, very much so. Studies I've read show that people in Spain and Italy consume per capita about 15 times as much as the Americans do, and the Greeks 22 times as much as Americans. So it's far more important in their diet, but it's increasing in the United States quite a bit.
And you're helping with that increase, right?
We're trying to do our tiny little portion, yes.
Okay, that's great, because I know I went to a doctor recently and he told me, he said, what are you eating? What's part of your diet? Because your veins are very healthy. And I said, I have olive oil every single day. So let's go over to a tree. And can you explain a little bit more about the picking process?
Yes.
And about the time it takes? Like, how old is this tree, for instance?
This tree is 11 years old. Now, these trees that are around us here are unique in that we originally planted an olive from southern Italy called Coratina. They grew very well. They were tremendously productive. The only problem was the oil was extremely bitter. I mean, if you drank some of it, it would curl your toes. It was so bitter.
We don't want that.
No. We tried different things, harvesting late, storing the oil for months before bottling it, but nothing helped. So on the advice of an Italian friend, we cut them back and grafted on the French olive Calumella, which has a mild, sweeter oil. And it's been very successful. Out of 400 trees, there were only 3 or 4 that the grafting didn't take. So what you see here, the upper part of the tree is the French olive Calumella. The trunk and the root system is the Italian Coratina.
Okay, interesting.
And these originally
so you kept the rootstock and grafted you didn't want to have the bitter olives.
Correct.
So you kept that rootstock?
Yes.
And then you grafted the Coratina into
Calumella.
Calumella.
Onto
Great,
that
wonderful,
French.
okay.
And it's been quite successful. We're very pleased with the result. Now, what we do here in terms of harvesting, we do it by hand. Now, when we have people visit us here and we give tours on the farm, I explained to them that in California, you have a wide variety of methods of harvesting olives, from simply doing it by hand as we do, to the other extreme of total mechanization. Where you have complete mechanization, though, the trees are planted differently. Here in this area, we have about 200 trees to the acre. In the complete mechanization, you have 700 to the acre, or give or take.
Okay.
And the trees are planted in hedgerows where they're pruned by machine, they're harvested by machine. Nobody ever needs to touch an olive.
So you don't do it the old-fashioned way.
Well,
I always have these very romantic visions of how olives are picked.
Well, you should come here then when we're harvesting. We use these buckets. These are made specifically for harvesting olives.
Okay.
There's a strap that goes over each shoulder.
Okay.
This pad fits against the middle of the back so that the bucket hangs in about this position.
Right, okay.
The picker is wearing gloves like this
Okay.
to protect his hands. And what he's doing is stripping the olives off of the branch into the bucket.
So he's doing this.
Yes, exactly.
And I probably just knocked off a few of your immature olives.
Well,
sorry.
That's okay. You were illustrating it correctly.
Okay, good, good. Perfect. And so how long does it take to fill a bucket? How long does a picker have to?
It's going to vary depending on how many olives are on the tree.
Right.
If you have a large amount of olives, they can fill that in 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay. So what affects the harvest? Weather? Is it like avocados? Do you have one good year and then one not so good year back and forth?
Yes, very much exactly as you said, like avocados.
Okay.
They tend to be alternate bearing.
Okay.
As you indicated, the weather has a significant effect. Do we get enough rain in the winter? Is important. Right now, today is a good example of another factor is, do we have hot, sunny weather in the summer to ripen the olives as they increase in size? And what we've been having, the answer is no.
Yeah, we've had a really, probably good for the residents of Ojai. We've had a mild summer so far, but not good for olive harvesting and not good for olive growing.
Exactly. In 2010, for example, we had a very mild summer. That year we had a huge crop of olives. And by October, particularly late October, the olives should start ripening and they will change color. They go from green to perhaps blue. Eventually they'll become black when they're fully ripe. But that year, even by the end of November, they were still mostly green. So you have to go ahead and pick them. You can't wait too late.
They're immature.
Yes,
Okay.
and this influences the amount of oil you get. You get less oil from green olives. But you get a lot.
Is that considered, and we'll talk more about that, sorry, but is that considered extra virgin olive oil if it's when you're picking them more when they're green as opposed to when they're black?
No.
No,
no,
okay.
Whether you get oil from green olives or from black olives, that alone has nothing to do with whether or not it's extra virgin.
Okay.
It does influence the color of the oil. If you're processing green olives, you get a green oil. If you're processing black olives, you get a golden colored oil. These colors are not indicative of quality.
Okay, okay, because I always thought, I was under the impression that the greener, the better quality of oil, and you're saying that's not true.
No.
Okay, well that's good to know.
Now, there is a very clear definition of what extra virgin is. There's one standard that's the same throughout the world. It's the same in Italy as it is in Spain, as it is in California, as it is in Australia or anywhere else. And that standard is something we follow and other growers in California follow in terms of having your oil tested in a laboratory and having it given to a tasting panel to subjectively evaluate the oil.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so say now we've got this full, we've got our bucket full, and then do you put it into a large crate, correct? You put the...
Well, we use these boxes.
Okay.
Now we're different than most other growers. This box will hold 55 or 60 pounds of olives. We like these because we don't have to use a forklift. These are easy to pick up, stack, move around. And you'll notice they have holes throughout the sides and the bottom to allow some movement of air. So in our case, this works very well.
Okay, so when this is full, then you bring it over to your press, and we're going to go over there and you're going to explain the process inside your olive factory. I guess what do you call your building over there, your olive?
Well, for our own purposes, we call it the olive barn, the equipment is an olive mill.
And the olive mill, okay. So we're going to pretend that this is full, and we're going to now go over to the olive mill, and he's going to teach us about extracting the oil from the olive, and I can't wait.
Good.
Can you explain and give us more details on olive growth?
Yes, Mary. Here you see the small columella olives. Now this is early July. If anything, these are a little bit behind what I would consider the normal growth at this time of year because of the milder weather we had in the spring. But they're growing nicely. One of the things that we have to be concerned about very soon is the olive fruit fly. This insect is not native to anywhere in the Americas, but they believe about 12 years ago someone brought some olives they had picked around the Mediterranean into Los Angeles with the larvae of the olive fruit fly in them. Now it's spread all over. And we don't spray these, we don't spray the tree. We're going to put a card in the tree. It's a new method of using it. It's a very mild product. It's a bait. It's approved for organic growers.
Wonderful.
And we'll use that here to protect the olives without spraying anything on them.
Are you certified organic?
There are two parts to our farm. One part is certified organic, the other part is not.
Okay.
But this gives you a good idea of what the olives look like at this stage.
And so from blossom to this, how long does it take from blossom before you pick a mature olive, say if you've had a spectacular summer?
From blossom to when we pick? About 7 months.
7 months. And these are how old?
These would be, it was a bit late this year. Say these are close to 2 months old or a month and a half.
So these are still little babies.
They came in stages this year. It was somewhat abnormal in terms of the way they blossomed in stages and the way the olives formed.
Now we are inside Ron's olive barn, also known as an olive mill, and today we're going to teach you about the journey of an olive from field to your table. And we just learned about the olive growing and the picking stage, and again we're inside the olive mill now, and there's 3 phases that an olive goes through before it gets turned into olive oil. And Ron is going to tell us about phase 1, which is right here.
This is what's called a hammer mill crusher. Now, I should state that all of this equipment that you're going to see is made in Italy. It's a factory in Tuscany, about a half an hour's drive outside of Florence. It's made of stainless steel. They use that material because it protects the taste of the oil. It doesn't affect it in any way. As I said, it's a hammer mill crusher. This part in the center is spinning at a rate of 3,000 revolutions per minute as the whole olive goes in here where my fingers are. I emphasize it's the whole olive, including the pit that goes in there. As they go in, there are pieces of steel in the back that chop up the olives. Then the pieces are forced through holes in this grill around the center. That completely crushes the olive and turns it into a liquid paste. It's liquid because the olive is 40 to 50% water and 15 to 20% oil.
Wow.
The paste then is pumped into these tanks. There are 3 of them, but we fill one at a time. The paste comes in from the bottom. As this is filling, inside it's turning at about this speed, mixing the paste. It mixes while it's filling, it keeps mixing when it's full, and then it continues mixing as we empty it and pump the paste out the back side of this tank. The reason for mixing the paste is when you crush the olives with this force and this speed, the oil is dispersed. And what we want is the oil to come together and to begin to separate from the rest of the olive. By mixing the paste, it brings the drops of oil back together. If you look in here when it's full, you'll see oil pooling on the top. It is separated from the rest of the olive. It's not just doing that on top, it's doing it all the way down through here. When this is full, we let it mix a few more minutes, then we begin to pump it out the back into the centrifuge, which would be the 3rd stage. The final stage is the separation of the oil from the rest of the olive. This is a centrifuge. The paste is pumped in here. When the paste comes in, this is spinning at a rate of about 4,300 revolutions per minute. In the center of this, there's a screw. The screw is also spinning, and the screw moves the paste in this direction. But the primary function of this is to separate the 3 main parts of the olive: the solids, which are the heaviest, the water, and the olive oil, which is the lightest of the 3. Now, we have a drawing here which helps illustrate what happens inside the centrifuge. The red circle here are the solids. As I said, they're the heaviest part, so they would be on the outside. The gray circle is the water, the green is the olive oil, and the white center is the screw. So obviously our objective is to take out of here what's shown as this green circle. To do that, there are 2 openings at this end of the centrifuge. One where my fingertip is here, and the same thing on the other side. Those openings are set to match where the oil is on the inside. So the oil flows out there. It doesn't simply fall down because of the rate that this is spinning, but it is contained within this area. So it does go down. There's an opening in the bottom connected with this pipe, and the olive oil flows out that pipe. So there we have done the separation of the oil from the rest of the olive.
Now, that is amazing, and it's so interesting. And from that first stage to the second to the third, how long is this process?
From the time we put the first olives in the hopper up there until the oil starts to flow here is roughly an hour and a half.
Okay, so it's that short of period of
Yes.
time.
And then once it starts, it's continuous because we keep putting olives in. Everything keeps flowing through here. Mm-hmm. Something that's important to note is we've talked about this as an olive mill. It is not an olive press. Most of the olive oil produced in the world today is produced using a centrifuge to separate the oil from the rest of the olive, simply because it's faster, it's less labor intensive, and so that phrases like first press, cold press are not nearly as relevant as they used to be.
Okay, wonderful. Now, I'm looking at this beautiful name of this machine, Olio Mio. Now,
Yes.
where is this? It's obviously from Italy. Are they famous for producing olive mills or centrifuges?
They're one of several companies in Italy that make olive oil equipment. Mm-hmm. The primary source of olive oil equipment in the world is Italy. There are other countries that produce some, but
love those Italians, don't you? I do. And I just have one other question. So, and your max year, what was your poundage? How many pounds of olives did you produce?
let me answer you a slightly different way.
Okay.
We had more than 3,000 gallons, close to 4,000 gallons.
Okay, wow. Okay, great.
We're a very small producer here in
Small
Ventura
is
County.
good. Small is good. Small and local. I love that. So now we're going to, thank you, Ron, for taking us through those our 3 steps, and the 4th being out in the olive grove. We're going to go outside and we're going to try some of his olive oil. Thank you. Now we're outside Ron's olive barn and we're tasting the final product. We're trying the Ladera oil, which is named after Ladera Canyon, correct?
Correct.
And is there anything else I need to know about this? Do you want to?
It's a mild oil, but you know, try it and form your own conclusions.
Oh, it's delicious, but I'm a huge fan of olive oil. It's really, really good. So.
And it's very good for you because of the vitamins and antioxidants. It's great for your cardiovascular system.
Really? I make olive oil salad dressing at home, and I just use olive oil, salt, garlic, and lemon juice, and that's it. And it tastes delicious, and it's perfect.
That's great.
So bon appetito, and thank you for joining Ron Asquith and I today at Ojai Olive Oil in Ojai. And do you have a website?
Yes, we do.
And what's the name of it?
OjaiOliveOil.com.
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you, KDTV. We appreciate it.